Welcome back, everyone, to Live Audio Wrestling. John Pollock with you here, and always happy to have this man on the program with us. He will be back on Saturday, March the 28th. It's an afternoon with this individual happening at the Rock Bar Theater over WrestleMania weekend. He is Jim Ross, who returns to Live Audio Wrestling. Jim, how are you doing today?
Outstanding, John. Outstanding. Very blessed, and it's always good to talk to you.
How do you feel going into this particular one-man show at the end of the month? I know you've done some of the double headers, which I have seen you in action, Jim, for these double headers. And when you add the meet and greet to it, I mean, those are quite the 24-hour periods for you. So this has to be a bit more relaxing that you have one show that everyone congregates to at the end of the month.
Yeah, it's a little less stressful, and I don't have to jumpstart myself. You know, once you get out there, it's the adrenaline takes over, because I really have fun doing these shows and being around the fans and engaging them in their Q&A. So one and done is and do it big and bold is a good way to go. So that's what we're doing here with this show at WrestleMania weekend. You know, I figured that we had to find a spot that it's like slotting. You know, we had to slot ourselves into a place where there'd be the competition would not be so strenuous. And so we figured at 1 to 3 on Saturday, with leading into the WWE Hall of Fame induction ceremony, is the way to go, because our show will end and it'll give the fans about approximately 2 hours to get to the arena to go to the Hall of Fame if they're going. And so I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be, you know, it's like everybody else. You still can touch WrestleMania. You still got a chance to have that adrenaline rush. And there's nothing like WrestleMania for those in our business. And I'm no different. So I expect to have my best show of the year on Saturday, March 28th, without question.
I know you were in Los Angeles this past weekend for UFC 184, getting to be there live, a show that looks to have done tremendous business. Being there live in the arena for the main event, Jim, with Ronda Rousey, Kat Zingano, I mean, what was just the immediate vibe in the aftermath of our 14-second main event?
Well, I'll tell you, I was on the 6th row with my wife, and when the bell rang to start the match, start the fight, I stood up, and by the time I got focused on by the time I stood up, and I actually got my eyes focused between the octagon, the fence, it was over. So it's like officially 12.8 seconds, I guess, but the crowd, they roared when she came out. It kept building and building. You could feel it. You know, as an old broadcaster, you just get that feel. She got that. Ronda had that Stone Cold Steve Austin kind of vibe in the building. You know, you knew something special was going to happen, and she was something special. And then when she won so quickly, it was kind of like the days of Mike Tyson when he'd annihilate somebody in round one. She got a huge ovation. So I didn't experience or feel any negative vibe from the fans. That's it. It was. She's really over to a massive degree, and arguably the most marketable fighter in MMA.
Yeah, and I think that I agree with you. I think that there are some people that look at it that, you know, you pay for a pay-per-view. Are you disappointed? To me, it's, especially with pay-per-views, what you're buying are moments. Moments like that where on Monday you're asking people, did you see the Ronda Rousey fight? That was the talking point coming out of the show, was the fight, and that if you had experienced it live, you had seen that moment. It's a once-in-a-lifetime fighter that people are seeing, and I don't sense that disappointment at all for people. Of it's almost a race against the clock of how fast this woman can finish somebody at this point.
Yeah, she's got a hard act to follow, and following herself to beat anybody any faster is going to be very challenging. And I don't know that you're going to see people bum rush her in the beginning of the fight anymore. I never understood that philosophy that Zingano's camp had her do. But and of course, if it had worked, we wouldn't be saying that. But it didn't work, and all of a sudden, her momentum took her into Rousey, and Rousey, using her coordination and her octagon sense, her feel, took it to her advantage. It was really kind of amazing. It's one of those deals where Zingano's own momentum put her in a bind. and then she got armbarred, and it was over.
Almost kind of similar to the final play of the Super Bowl this year, where if the Seahawks had pulled that off, they would have been geniuses the next day, but it didn't work, and everyone is questioning why you call that play if you're Kat Zingano's camp.
Exactly, and it's easy to go back and second guess, and hopefully Zingano will get back on the winning track. She's never lost, and certainly her story is very marketable. Two ACL rebuilds and a husband who died of suicide is, leaving her as a single mom is a very poignant story, and you kind of feel for the young woman. I thought it was really classy that Rousey somewhat seemingly consoled her after the fight. I thought that was a real classy move. She certainly wasn't talking trash, and I would suggest that she would not have been as pleasant if that loser had been Chris Cyborg.
You also had a connection on the undercard. We saw the return to the UFC, the first time since 2008, for Joan Carneiro, the man who won the one and only Battlegrounds tournament last October that you and Chael Sonnen called, returned, looked fantastic against Mark Munoz.
Yeah, he's a nice guy, and I really enjoyed getting to know him at that fight last fall. And he came in so well conditioned. He was those one-night tournaments are brutal, as you well know, and so that that was kind of cool. I didn't get the chance to talk to any of the guys, and I went to the after party and saw it and had a good long talk with Chuck Liddell. But the UFC does it right, man. They treat you good, and the atmosphere was great. Their music is loud, it's appropriate. The atmosphere at a live event at the pay-per-view is really on point. Is for me, being involved in so many big events like WrestleMania, it's fun to watch other people produce a big time event, see how they do it, their nuances. So they just do a phenomenal job of those pay-per-views, and that's the second one I've gone to, and I have never been disappointed. It was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question, because I've been around broadcasters before when they are put into the role of just a spectator in an arena. It's almost like they have this energy about them where they want to be calling the action. It's just second nature to them. Are you able to flip that switch off when you're live at the Staples Center and can just be a fan for one night?
It's challenging. I will say that. It's really challenging. I think I did in L.A., but it was challenging, especially when there's a sense that you have. In in my DNA anyway. I can't speak for every announcer, but broadcaster. But it's in my DNA that there's something that flips that switch that you should be talking right now. You should be telling a story. And it was I was waiting for my cue, but I didn't have a headset, and I don't think the people sitting around me would want to hear my commentary. So I tried to get back in fan mode, but it is challenging because it's just a special feel that you have. And I think sometimes at the end of the day, John, that's a good thing because it reminds us that we haven't lost our passion for what we're seeing and what we're experiencing. So I think that's a good thing. So, but it is hard to tag out and take the black hat off, so to speak, and just sit there and enjoy it as a citizen. So, but it's not easy. Same thing. Hey, if I see a real good wrestling match on TV, I said, man, that's when I would like to call. And that's basically why I did the Wrestle Kingdom 9 show. Mm-hmm. Just wanted to know if I still had the wherewithal to call a wrestling match. And I wanted to experience that brand, which I've become a big fan of. So those are all measuring sticks. And I think that, you want to know if you pass the test that you're still in the game, at least emotionally. And I think I answered my questions on those.
Kind of segueing over, the guy that kind of tied it all together on Saturday night, Brock Lesnar, was also there in attendance at the Staples Center. Interesting game of chess going on right now involving Brock Lesnar and his employers at the WWE. Did you have a chance to speak to Mr. Lesnar, who looked to be turning back time with a Boyd Pierce-inspired suit on Saturday night?
That was the largest tailored, custom-made plaid suit I ever saw, and he stood out, and they trotted him out there like like a stallion at a thoroughbred racing farm in Kentucky or something, you know. And he got a big pop from everybody, and the murmurs and the mumbling started when people laid their eyes on him. So, but I did not get the chance to speak to him. We were in different sections adjacent to each other, but it was just too far and then too clumsy to try to get together. And he did not come to. I went to the UFC's official after party, as I mentioned. He did not come to that, which did not surprise me.
No,
that's not his bailiwick, his cup of tea. So I didn't speak to him. He looked great. It is an interesting form of negotiation to be, that out front with your former guy who's still the girl you took to the prom and who you still have feelings for. Is kind of what it reminded me of, and so it's just going to be interesting to see after WrestleMania where who Lesnar walks down the aisle with, and I think that the one thing about that is I've mentioned on my podcast on podcast 1, the Ross Report, that I believe that Lesnar, after thinking about it, I've always thought there was a really strong chance he's going to go back to UFC and do unfinished business because that's the kind of guy that he is. But I think that I'm of the mindset now, John, I believe that Lesnar will be better off signing back with WWE.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'd be better off health-wise. I think he'd be just probably in the hunt, without question, money-wise. And the fact that he gets to keep his own sponsors like a NASCAR driver. And he's got all these, like Jimmy John's Sandwich Place on
Yep.
his sites and others. They're going to get a lot more value for their sponsorship if he's on regular TV, like basic cable. So that would mean he needed to wrestle on Raw occasionally. He might have to do a few more dates, but I think he could make up for those dates by getting more sponsorship money. That's my take on it. The sponsor wants eyeballs. The sponsor wants exposure. You're going to get a lot more exposure on basic cable television than you are on pay-per-view, anybody's pay-per-view, including WWE. So I think if he thinks about it long and hard, I also think it'd be safer. You're not working a 300-day-a-year schedule. You're only working a handful of dates. I think it's safer for him, and that would be my advice. But I haven't seen the numbers. Maybe one company's number is going to blow away the others. And the other thing that we haven't discussed is where does Viacom fit in all this? Because I'm Scott Coker, and I'm the Viacom executives, and I have a chance to sign Brock Lesnar. I'm damn sure going to try to get it done.
Well, and on top of that, Jim, you brought out the sponsorship deal, and come July, the Reebok deal comes into effect, where theoretically any of Brock's outside sponsors would be iced out of the equation unless you are going to create a double standard for one fighter to allow those sponsors to be showed inside of the cage during fight week. That makes Viacom a really attractive option for somebody that does come in and commands giant sponsorship dollars, and there are no restrictions in Viacom.
Yeah, that's a good point. And and I think if you're a smart businessman, and certainly the guys, Dana White and the Fertittas are very, very smart businessmen, very strategic, you can't really create the double standard because it's like dominoes falling. And you do that for Brock. Do you do it for GSP? Do you do it for Johnny Hendricks? Do you do it for whomever? Just name one. Name one top guy. Then all of a sudden your template has been encroached. So I don't know that you want to do that. So you have to figure out how to compensate for the money and the relationships that Brock has built with these sponsors. So I'm just saying that you'd have to. I would think that Bellator and Viacom would pretty well do what they had to do to get Lesnar signed in regards to these sponsors. And certainly WWE has already proven that they don't have any issues with the sponsors on his tights. My only thing was I was thinking that's from a business point of view is that where do you go to get the most eyeballs? And of course Viacom also on basic cable and Spike in America, you're looking at a same theory, more eyeballs and just relying on pay-per-view. So, but I don't know what Brock's relationship, how deep it runs with Dana. I think it's good from what I hear. They're both, cut out of the same cloth. They're alpha males. big time, and so he may just want to do business with Dana on a personal level. But I think that the long haul, at his age, and everything, all the factors involved, he's got a young family. I think the WWE is the way to go, and I think the way to go in the WWE is for him to be a babyface. And then he creates that other money stream of selling a lot more merchandise because he's a fan favorite. I think the returning conquering hero in the WWE's world is much more marketable, much more viable financially than the returning conquering villain.
Mm-hmm.
And Lesnar is just one or two maneuvers away from being a full-fledged hero, because people live vicariously through the big son of a gun. You know, people like to see what he does. He's extraordinary, and he doesn't wrestle like a heel. He doesn't retreat. He doesn't regroup. He doesn't cheat behind the referee's back. He doesn't do a lot of the normal things that have made heels really viable over the years that a lot of guys have forgotten how to do. So he doesn't wrestle like a typical heel. So I don't know what makes you want to. The only thing that you boo him for, basically, is the fact that he's being endorsed by Paul Heyman. And without Paul Heyman there, Lesnar is going to be at worst a tweener. But I think he'd be a full-fledged babyface. So I think that would be how I would tweak that. And WWE could better monetize their entire investment by selling more of his merchandise. They'd make more money, and to offset the cost of having a big 7-figure contract for a part-time guy.
So as you kind of look at this entire situation, Jim, is it almost stunning that it has gotten to this point where we're a couple weeks out from WrestleMania? We don't know if our champion is going to be with us 2 days after WrestleMania, and how that handicaps you in terms of, you know, if you want to set up Brock for this, what I believe is a giant babyface run that he has at a time to be determined later this year, and you don't know if he's going to be here or gone. It seems that it's amazing that here we are, and we don't know what the status of this guy is going to be with the company right after WrestleMania. Yeah,
it's a little surprising that it's lingered, and I don't know if that's anybody's quote-unquote fault. It's just, I've been in those negotiations many, many times over my 21-year career there, and sometimes things get out of your control as far as either communication. The more people that are involved in the negotiation, the more sluggish it is. I know Brock's got agents and lawyers and stuff, and of course his own feedback. So getting everybody on the same page, even getting everybody on together at the same time on a conference call sometimes can be challenging, believe it or not. So somebody reminded me on Twitter that last summer in July, and I didn't even recall, that one of my little editorial rants that I do on my podcast was that if I were WWE, I would probably be working very diligently to get Lesnar re-signed so he didn't roll into WrestleMania with any issues. And whether they tried and they couldn't get it done, I don't know. I'm not faulting WWE for this because it takes two to tango in these negotiations. But my theory was always to get ahead of the curve and start the dialogue in a serious way. If on somebody you really wanted to keep, and he's definitely a keeper, you know, come on, that's easy. And I would have probably started last summer, and just to begin the dialogue, to test the water. Where are we?
Yeah.
We have a good shot at renegotiating this guy. Is he going to want a whole lot more money? Is he going to want less dates? Can we get more dates? And there's a lot of unanswered questions that you can't ascertain until you communicate. So the earlier you communicate, you can eliminate a lot of the problems. But be that as it may, here we are. And WrestleMania is less than a month away, March 29th. And I don't know. I don't know when Lesnar's contract officially ends. I don't think that he will breach. I don't think there'll be any issues whatsoever. It'd be silly to create legal issues over honoring his contract at this point in the game.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening at all. So my theory is that he will definitely be defending his title at WrestleMania. And I believe that Reigns will win. And I just think Reigns could be more effective if he was with Heyman, not Lesnar.
Well, as you know, so often we play fantasy booker. I want to play fantasy executive here with the man that was in the position. We go to Monday night. Raw's in Pittsburgh. We believe Brock Lesnar will be there. He's advertised for Monday night. How does Jim Ross handle this situation where you mentioned we have two alpha males in Brock Lesnar and Vince McMahon, and I fully believe you would be that bridge and a key component of this relationship in the middle of all of this. How do you handle this on Monday? Because I think you need to sit down and get everybody onto the same page, and that's very much easier said than done, I feel, with these individuals.
Yeah, and the other, you're right. Everything you said is accurate as far as getting everybody together. The thing about it is that at television, at TV, with all but your peers there and the locker rooms bursting with human beings in tights, you could say it's not the most ideal place to have a serious meeting. But you need to, because of the distractions and the phones ringing and knocking on the door and all this other stuff. But I would certainly, I would think creatively, is that the place that you see the contract signing type thing and Heyman pulls the trigger on his collusion with Reigns? And so the bill for the next several weeks is a angry, pissed off Lesnar who wants to destroy anything in his sight, coming to defend his title against this young stud, younger than him, and with his advocate now in the corner of the young guy. So Lesnar gets sold down the river. He gets sold out. And now you got a chance to really build some buzz leading into WrestleMania and create some momentum because, Lesnar's, that would be, he'd be like a wounded animal. But I think that I would think that somewhere along the way, and it may necessitate, going to Minnesota and going to a meeting in Minneapolis or something, or can you put Brock? Can you get him to Stanford?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that TV is the best place to finalize your business. I've tried over the years. Sometimes you're successful, but more often than not, there's too damn many distractions to everybody to focus on the task at hand. And I also don't know, John, completely out of the loop, how far apart they are.
Yeah.
That's another issue. Now, if they're not that far apart, and we don't know that, all we know is what we read and what we hear. We don't know. We haven't read the contract. We haven't read the counter offer. We haven't heard any of the dialogue. We haven't been a fly on the wall. We're just assuming. Maybe they're not as far apart as we're led to believe. I don't know. So people that write about it on the internet wrestling community write as if they've been in these meetings. And we know they haven't. So I don't have a damn clue where they are. And are they miles apart? Are they countries apart? Are they in the same neighborhood? If you're in the same neighborhood and you're close, then you might be able to pull off that meeting earlier in the day on Monday in Pittsburgh.
You also have had to deal with so many contrasting personalities over your entire career. Did you always have an ability, Jim, in situations such as this one, to keep emotion out of it? Was that ever something where it did enter into the equation and made it hard to make a deal? Or was that just something that you could eliminate from the discussion and just keep it to business, no matter what the personality was across the table from you?
I think going forward, once I started that role as the head of talent relations there, I would like to think that I got better in that facet of the job. And I think that to say I never took any of it personally would be erroneous, because we're human. And I took my job very seriously. I took representing the WWE very seriously. It really was more of my life than it was my job. It was just a part of what I did. And I think as time went on, I was able to separate personal from business. But to say I never experienced the angst or frustration would not be accurate. And that's why I say sometimes you're better off having the meeting in a neutral territory, in a neutral site, so to speak, or even in, like I said, in Brock's lawyer's office, where he has the home field advantage. I never minded giving up the home field advantage because I did what I could do and what I couldn't do numbers-wise. So it is challenging, and you have to. It's like being a baseball umpire. When I went to Major League Umpire School, they said you have to remain unemotional in emotional situations. And I kind of carried that mantra through to my talent relations job. That's, you got to remain unemotional in what could be an emotional situation, because you're talking about significant sums of money having a profound effect on one's the individual's family. There's a lot of variables there, and so it was always felt that in the latter days I was a lot more wise to lay back and not be as aggressive. So that's kind of where I'm thinking on that deal. And I think Vince understands that. Vince has negotiated tons of contracts with tons of big personalities. So I just feel confident that they're going to do what's best for all parties involved to create a win-win. And I just really believe that win-win is Brock staying with WWE and moving forward.
Oh, this is a fantastic analysis from the man that was in the position. And one final topic before we wrap things up, Jim. Before we go into WrestleMania, a lot of people look back. You've been involved in so many different ones. And just this past week, I was looking at WrestleMania 24. It was 2008, of course, Ric Flair's retirement match with Shawn Michaels, which you were calling alongside Jerry Lawler. And that same weekend, you're inducting Gordon Soley into the Hall of Fame. That had to have been quite the weekend for you going into things with those two highlights.
Yeah, it was significant. And the other thing ironic about that is that I broadcast my first XFL football game from that same stadium, the Citrus Bowl.
Oh, that's right.
So they had a kind of an interesting backstory to that. And I also have told people that of all the matches I've done on a real high level, that was the match that Flair and Shawn, that I wish I could go back and redo my part of, because I felt like I could have done a better job with that. But it was what it was. We did our best. I'm certainly not judging Lawler or Cole, but on my role, I thought I could have done a little bit better, and to give the match more emotion, more feeling, because of where it was on the card, what it meant to Flair's career, his legacy, et cetera, et cetera. And you're seeing two of the greatest of all time in the ring, rare occasion. So, but that was a really cool weekend. Gordon was my role model and a guy I learned a lot from. Could never emulate his style, but I emulated his philosophies and his theories and his psychology more than anything. So that was a cool weekend, no doubt about that.
Well, far be it for me to be an expert of anything in announcing, but I rewatched that match this week, JR, with Michaels and Flair. And early on in the match, Michaels goes for this Asai moonsault, lands horrendously awkwardly on the announce table. Looks like his ribs are broken. And 15 minutes later, they try to do a bridge up spot, and they can't get up. And it's this awkward moment, and seamlessly, you just say, can't bridge up. Obviously, because of the landing on the announce table that we saw earlier. And that to me was just a seamless cover. It made complete sense. It added to the story of the match so well. I thought it was a great call myself. I thought that match holds up tremendously well. And a daring finish at the end, I think, with Shawn Michaels and telling him I love you, something that I'm sure there are hardened wrestling fans that just scoff at that kind of thing. It was to me a tremendous end and call. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I'll date myself here from the 1957 Disney classic Oh Yeller. It was like they had to put the old dog down, and you were reluctant to do it, but you didn't have any other option. It's the life that we chose. And when you're living on a farm, you've got a rabid animal, you have to put them down. And in the wrestling business, where you have a retirement match or you're at WrestleMania, Shawn is still compelled to win. And even though he loves Rick, it's the competition that has driven both men to where they are that they can't control. They both want to win. So I thought it was I didn't have any issues with the finish whatsoever. Thought it was a really good story. I just wish I could have added to it a little bit more, but nonetheless, I'm very honored I got the opportunity to be a part of that match, because I think at that time I was kind of hit and miss. I was here and there and whatever, but it really made me feel good to be a part of that. And every WrestleMania match I've done, when I do this one-offs, they've all been, extraordinary experiences, and just the WrestleMania feeling in general. That's why I think that my show, and tickets are at ticketweb.com, $20. So I think we priced them right. You're going to be the MC, which is going to be fun.
Looking forward to it.
We'll have fans from all over the world asking questions. Every show is different, has its own personality. I'll have some WrestleMania exclusive stories that we'll kind of open the proceedings up with. So it's all good, man. It's going to be a fun time. The Rock Bar Theater is a former casino. Got a lot of room, a lot of free parking. It's just a few minutes, like 10, 15 minutes max from the Hall of Fame site. So it's right there in San Jose, and I think we're going to have a blast, and we're going to have a big crowd, and tickets will be available also. If you don't get them in advance, they'll be available once you get in town at the Rock Bar Theater. And the only thing we're going to have left are the $20 tickets, which is, hey, it's all the seats are the same, so you're good. So I'm looking forward to it, to say the least.
Yeah, it's happening Saturday, March 28th, as JR mentioned, the Rock Bar Theater, 360 Saratoga Avenue. The meet and greet is before the show. Show is at 1 o'clock p.m. Ticket Web for all your tickets, and you can get more information. JRSBarbecue.com. He's at JRSBBQ on Twitter.